Welcome to the heart of the medieval world, where justice took on a strange, sometimes cruel form. Today we delve into one of those lesser-known devices of history, one engineered not to harm the body, but to crush the spirit, the Schandmantel, or coat of shame. This wasn't the typical torture device in that its power lay in public humiliation and the psychological scarring it left on those who were made to wear it. Consider the medieval city square teeming with life. The men, women, and children have all gathered around to witness this sight. In the middle of it all is a person wearing an enormous, heavy, almost barrel-like contraption that weighs them down and barely allows them to move. This is the Schandmantel, a contraption designed not to harm, but to humiliate. Public shaming wasn't new, but the Schandmantel took it to a hauntingly new level. First appearing in the 13th century in Germanic regions, this device was crafted to be uncomfortable and restrictive, utterly humiliating. As people watched, the wearer's dignity was stripped away, little by little, gaze by gaze, jeer by jeer. It was for petty crimes, but the effects were anything but petty. Let's take a closer look at the device itself. Shaped like a barrel or an oversized coat, made of heavy metal or wood, often lined with sharp edges. Some even had inscriptions detailing what the wearer's crime was. The openings for the arms, head, and sometimes even legs were restrictive, allowing only a tiny amount of movement. This then made the wearer endure in an unnatural posture that added much to the discomfort. Imagine the weight of that coat on a body, pressed down, while people jeered. It was more than a physical burden. It was a public declaration of guilt and ridicule. In the case of minor crimes, marks were left on the soul, not on the skin. Some never recovered from the shame, while others were forever branded by the memory of that day in the square. But what made the Schandmantel truly cruel was not the physical burden. It was the psychological one. To many, wearing this coat of shame created a ripple effect into isolation and ridicule. Many find it very difficult to resettle in society once branded a criminal. Families and communities saw them differently, and to most, it was life imprisonment in itself. People started carrying the shame inside them, mentally replaying the humiliation long after the coat was taken off their bodies. It has remained a grim reminder of public shaming, a punishment that may not leave a scar physically, but leaves deep wounds hidden in the psyche. This is but one example of how shame was used as a means of control in the medieval world. It is also an eerie reminder that, even then, societies knew the devastating means by which psychological punishment can leave a person raw and open. Now, however, we can learn from this darker side of history. It's in a world that more often than not judges and shames that history reminds us to choose compassion over condemnation. And we know when we understand the harm public shaming does, true justice ought to uplift and heal and reform rather than humiliate. But the story of the Schandmantel is not a chapter from the past. It's a lesson in empathy and human grit. Let us not forget the power of an act of simple kindness in a world that would always hasten to judgment rather than understanding. History may be filled with dark chapters, but it's within our power to create a brighter future where compassion takes the place of shame. Until next time, let us continue to learn from the past how to build a better tomorrow. Stay connected to the strange and surprising past. If you liked all of the twisted devices and really dark history from medieval times, there's a lot more where that came from. Subscribe now and get new stories delivered straight to your inbox. Join our community and continue to explore new stories. The outcome is always a different perspective. Let's learn from the past, together.